Yo, what's up, y'all? Hope y'all having a good day. Hope y'all having a blessed day, man. Um, Today I wanted to talk about why nobody has friends no more, man. We live in a world where everybody is extremely lonely, and it's funny because we're lonely in literally the most connected time. Social media allows us to be super hyper connected, yet we're all so very lonely. We don't have any friends. You know what I'm saying? The average person in Gen Z probably don't have no friends. The most isolated generation for sure. And I've kind of halfway covered this before. You know what I mean? Where I talked about how we lack community, but I really wanted to think a little bit deeper, right? Because I really thought about like, why do we lack community? You know what I mean? Because social media plays a part, it plays a role, but there's no way that that's the only reason, man. There's no way that's the only reason why we lack community, why school has a monopoly on community, and why a lot of us are not socialized, why a lot of us have social anxiety so much, why it's so weird to just talk to people, bro. And I had to really think about what it was, man, because when I was young, when I was coming up, I used to always play outside. I knew all my neighbors, bro. I knew my neighbors. I used to have friends down the block, up and down the block, man. We used to always go outside, just ride bikes, run around, play tag, hide and seek when we was young. You know what I'm saying? I was very well socialized as a kid, man. I played youth football. You know what I mean? I had community. I had, you know what I mean? Like community. And as I started to get into like middle school and high school, all that went away, man. And I was just thinking to myself, like, dang, like looking back, what happened to my community? Why did the community just disintegrate? You know, I always played sports and stuff like that, but it's like, dang, outside of school, outside of sports, it's like I go home and it's just me. What happened to going outside? Nobody's outside. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to think deeper, like, why is it that young people don't have community, bro? And I started to realize that the reason that we don't have community, the reason why we don't have a lot of friends, is because our parents don't have community. Let me explain, right? So we gonna really do a deep dive into this stuff, bro. So we could really understand and we could really maybe try to like reverse or not reverse it, but like try and help it get better. I just really want to start conversation, man. But so think about it. After the Second World War, there was a very big rise in, people living in the suburbs, right? People weren't living in big cities like that no more. Obviously, they were, but like people were starting to move to the suburbs, right? And part of it was that people liked the idea of owning some land. You know what I mean? Like obviously you're not owning a bunch of acres, but like, you own it, you got a plot of land, you know what I mean? They like the idea of having a backyard. Yeah, like the idea of having a house, you know what I mean? While not necessarily having to live, in the boonies in the middle of nowhere. It was like a nice medium between living in, in on a ranch and in the woods or something like that, very isolated, and a mix between that and like city living, because there's other houses in the suburbs and stuff like that, right? So there was a very big population boom in the suburbs, right? From like the 50s to the 80s, 50s to the 70s, it increased, like it like doubled the population, right? So a lot of our parents started to move to the suburbs. Now, a lot of our parents who are like boomers and Gen Xers, right? They had community, right? They grew up on community. They grew up with social trust. Like they knew each other, you know what I mean? They hung out with each other, all that type of stuff. They used to go outside, you know what I mean? Even as they got older, like, obviously they wasn't playing tag and stuff like that, but they was hanging out with each other, stuff like that. Like friendship was common, relationships were common, you know what I'm saying? But what happened was we moved, or our parents at the time started moving into these suburbs, right? And what you have to understand about suburbs is that suburbs are meant to be isolating. Suburbs were not meant for socialization, even though they try to tell you that they are. They try to tell you, oh, they're great for being social. They're not great for being social, right? At the time, it may have worked. At that time, like in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you know what I'm saying? Even all the way up through the early 2000s. That's when I was born. I was born in 2001. That was probably about the last time it was normal to go outside. Through that time period, for those 30, 40, 50 years, it worked because there was still a semblance of community and social trust, right? It was a semblance of it. I remember talking to my mom and she would tell me stories about just going to the store when she was like real young with her friends and stuff like that, and they, you know what I mean, like they knew each other, all that. And it may have worked, the suburbs, but what started to happen was we started to become more and more isolated, because that's what the suburbs is built to do. It's built to isolate you. And the reason why I know that is because look around, right? If you live in the suburbs, just go outside and look around real quick. Or if you don't, you know what I mean? Look it up. There is nothing to do. Even if I wanted to go outside, there is absolutely nothing to do. There's a bunch of trees and roads. The nearest store is maybe a mile, maybe probably 2 miles away. You know what I'm saying? And that's if you're lucky. If you're lucky, there's a store a mile, 2 miles away, man. And it's like, going to that store, a lot of people don't even walk. Like the way the infrastructure is set up, there may or may not be sidewalks set up for people to walk. You know what I'm saying? And, with the rise in use of automobiles, people would rather drive, you know what I mean? Because people didn't want to be in harsh conditions. And then we just over time just started to get used to just hopping in our vehicles to go a mile, 2 miles. We don't walk no more. It's weird to walk and it's weird to talk to people, right? It became weird to talk to people because it's weird to walk. Right? Because that's how you meet people. You go outside, you walk around, you have to be around people. But now we're not around people. We get in our isolating, we stay in these isolating suburban houses, and then we go in our isolating cars just by ourselves, and then we go to the store. And if you ever go to the store, bro, I want you to pay attention to how like the lack of like noise, really. Like there's noise, you know what I mean? There's always gonna be, carts pushed around and maybe playing music, but like there's not really much in the way of people talking outside of the checkout area. You know what I mean? You go to the back of the store, it's kind of quiet back there. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of silent because people ain't talking to each other like that no more, unless they talk to their own immediate family or whoever, right? So, this has caused us to become more isolated. And if you think about the way that the suburb is set up, it's set up for you to stay in your house. It's set up for you to stay in your plot of land, bro. Right? And now you might be saying, well, okay, but, people can still go outside and do this and do that. But I'm about to get to that in a second, because what really happened was not only did the suburbs push isolation, but they started to push a lack of social trust. And let me tell you why. Because if you go to any household, what is one thing that every single household has? A goddamn TV. Now, this is what is important to note. Our parents, boomers, Gen Xers, have a very high level of trust in the government, right? Or at least they did when they was coming up, because we were just coming off of war. We just won the fucking war. Of course you're going to have trust in the government. Shit, we just won World War II. Like, shit, like, I would have a trust in the government, too, if we just came off an insane war like that. There was very high trust in the government. There was also very high trust in media companies, media outlets and stuff like that. Partially because there wasn't really, definitely not as many media outlets as there are today. There wasn't as many ways to get your news besides the newspaper and, the radio and the TV and stuff like that. But, back then, there was a lot of trust for the government, a lot of trust for news and media. Now, one thing you have to learn about how news and media makes money: they don't make money selling happy stories to people. They make money selling sad stories. That's why you turn on the news and you always gonna see somebody just got kidnapped. Somebody just got shot. You know what I mean? Something bad, a tragedy just happened. Tragedy. That is how the news keeps people in, because people like to see tragedies. It's psychological. That's how they make money. That's how they keep viewership up. If they were just talking about happy stuff the whole time, people wouldn't tune in as much, because it's like, oh yeah, something good going on, right? They might sprinkle in some good stuff, but it's mainly tragedies. Mainly, oh, this is bad. This is bad. And what happened was, because our parents had such a high level of trust for this, they started to look at the news and be like, uh-oh, the world. And I'm about to say something that a lot of y'all probably heard from your parents. I'm not going to let you go outside. I'm not going to let you go anywhere you want, because the world is crazy. The world is getting crazier. It's not how it used to be. It's getting crazy. You probably heard that before. And so what this creates is helicopter parents, or something, a semblance of helicopter parents, where they won't let you go outside no more. They won't let you have community, because they don't have community with each other. They disbanded their communities because they lost trust in each other, because these news outlets and the isolation of the suburbs combined to make sure that they don't trust each other no more. Our parents don't hang out with each other no more, bruh. Our parents started to stay inside. Boomers, Gen Xers started to stay inside, not because of social media or nothing like that, but because they lacked trust in each other, right? They started to be like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, shoot, look at what it's resulted in. Like, nowadays, everybody got a Ring camera. Everybody's on edge. You know what I'm saying? And so the lack of social trust, that led to us, right? Millennials, Gen Zs, and what's next, Gen Alpha. We staying inside, partially because of social media. That definitely plays a factor, plays a role. But at the same time, our parents do not trust us going anywhere. Our parents, see, my dad and my mom used to tell me stories about how they would take bikes when they was 12, 13 years old, ride bikes down to the beach and come back, and no cell phone. They didn't have to call their mom. They didn't have to call their dad, tell them where they was at. Nah, I was never able to do that. In fact, even when it was normal to go outside, early 2000s, I wasn't going very far. I was just staying on my street. I did not go very far. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a lack of social trust, and that's only continued to build. And this lack of social trust is actually having a big effect, and nobody's really talking about it, right? So this lack of social trust has led to, because it's a chain reaction. It's led to our parents disbanding their communities, and now we don't have community because they telling us to stay inside. We can't go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? We got helicopter parents. You can't go here. You can't go here. You go to school and come back home. That is what we are starting to see, a rise in that style of parenting because of a lack of social trust. You know what I mean? So you think about, yes, like it is true that we lack friends and lack friendship because, school has a monopoly over community and stuff like that. But the only reason school has a monopoly over community is because we're not able to go outside and find our own communities no more. We're not able to go and build new communities no more because of how our parents are starting to raise kids. And this is probably going to keep going over and over because parents, the way that people parent is based off of how the last generation parented them. You know what I mean? So it's probably only going to continue to get worse and worse and worse, right? So what this has led to is us, Gen Z, now staying inside, and now we on social media now because we can't go outside, right? So I'm finna be on Instagram, I'm finna be on Twitter, I'm finna be on Snapchat, whatever they're using now. And so this has now had an effect on us in multiple ways, right? And what has come about it is what's called main character syndrome. All right, so now let's really get into the meat and potatoes as to why it's so difficult to make friends, why nobody has friends anymore. Okay, so main character syndrome is basically when you have such an ego about yourself that you're not worried about other people's problems. And the most humble, most humble person in this generation still has a form of this because with the lack of social trust, we have been encouraged to only care about our own problems. That's what happens when you're isolated. That's what happens when you're not allowed to be around other people. It's because we have nobody else to worry about. The only things that we have to worry about is virtual people on a screen, and we don't take that seriously. We don't see people on social media as real people. We just see them as a username and a number, right? So we start to only care about ourselves when as a human, we only start to care about us. Okay, and what this has led to is a rise in individualism, right? We now care more about expressing ourselves, right? Express yourself. That's been the whole Gen Z thing. That's why, you see a lot of people with, colored hair. And I'm not knocking colored hair. I'm just saying, that's why it's more normal to see these things. People with colored hair, more outlandish styles. It's more normal to see these things because people feel more comfortable expressing themselves as an individual, right? And so what this has led to is us not caring or having any kind of empathy. That's a neighbor's pool. Any kind of empathy for each other or any kind of concern or regard for anybody that is not ourselves. All right, and then what this has led to is main character syndrome. We believe truly each one of us believes that our problems are the center of the universe. We do not consider everything else that's going on, and this is partially why it's so difficult to make friends, right? Because we already lack social trust. We do not trust the people we go to work with. That's why we don't hang out with them outside of work. We don't trust them. We don't trust the people at school. You know what I'm saying? I remember when I was in middle school, my mom used to tell me that I couldn't trust my friends. You know what I mean? Real shit. And so what this has all led to is, okay, well, I'm only going to be concerned with myself. That's why we continue to say, oh, I'm lonely, I'm lonely, I'm lonely. Yet when we meet people in real life, it's weird to talk to them. Because the first thing that you think about whenever you're talking to somebody is, why is this person talking to me? It's not, oh, I can potentially make this a friend. This could be a connection. No, it's tough for us to make connections, and it's tough for us to have relationships and all that, because the first thing we think when somebody new talks to us is, why the fuck are you, why are you talking to me? Who are you? You know what I mean? Why you don't have a right to talk to me? You know what I mean? And then we have main character syndrome on top of that. So we feel like our problems are the only problems that matter. So we kind of are we are very friendship averse. We are very people averse, talk averse. We don't like to talk to people unless we're in a certain mood. And even when we're in that certain mood, we only like to talk to people we already know, because it's all about our low levels of trust. This is why everyone has social anxiety nowadays. This is why everybody cannot trust nobody nowadays. You know what I mean? And then That's why the things that are happening, the movements that are happening right now are happening. Think about the self-improvement movement, right? The self-improvement thing is like focus on yourself, focus on yourself. Looks maxing, got really popular. You know what I mean? All this stuff got really popular because it's self-centered. Everything is every new trend is very self-centric. It's about you. It's not about caring for other people, not about kindness. It's all about you. Even hating. You see hating everywhere. Everybody hates on everything nowadays because you want to make sure that you stand out to other people. You don't like to like the same things as other people. Everyone is trying to be different. Everyone is trying to be too individual, and it's becoming very selfish. It is very difficult to become friends with people that think that way because it's like, dang, all you talk about is your damn self. You have nothing interesting to talk about. You know what I mean? Like it's getting bad. And then social media only makes it worse, especially TikTok, because here's the thing about the TikTok algorithm. The TikTok algorithm plays on this psychological it plays on this psychological phenomenon that we only care about ourselves, because TikTok allows everybody to blow up. I know all of my friends done had at least one TikTok video get over 1,000, like 10,000 views, something like that. And it gives you the false sense of, oh, I'm a star. And this only adds to our main character syndrome. Oh, I'm a star. I'm this. I'm that. It adds to our ego. That's why it's so difficult to make friends, because now everybody a goddamn TikTok star walking around, bro. Everybody feel like they oh, I'm this, I'm somebody. And it's good to have confidence in yourself. It's good to say you're somebody. It's good to have confidence. I'm not saying we shouldn't have confidence, but there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance and main character syndrome, right? What we have a lot of the time is arrogance. We feel like we are owed things. We feel like friends should be made because they should come up to us. We don't feel like we should go talk to them. And so what happens is nobody ends up talking to each other. You ever been to a party where everyone feels like they too cool to dance? That's exactly what it's like. Everybody feels like they too cool to dance. I'm too cool to talk to this person. I'm too cool to hang out with this person outside of work or school. I'm too cool. Or even if it's not, I'm too cool. I don't really trust it. I don't really feel like I'm not really. But then we go and cry online about how we don't have friends and shit like that. I'm lonely. I'm lonely. Well, dude, you push everybody away because of your main character syndrome and your lack of social trust. But anyway, man, that's just what was on my mind today. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section. I'm out, man. Peace.